this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on the 17th of October. It's 9:12 in the morning and our weather is pretty pleasant right now. These are the golden days for weather, though there is a war or multiple front war. The high will be 85 today. Let's see when it'll hit 85. Oh, not till 2 o'clock, so I can leave the kids outside. Okay, I guess I'm going to go right now and jump into the live stream and check for sound and picture and put my posts up while we wait for people to come in. Go right now and jump into the live stream. So we got sound and picture, which is always nice. Let me get my posts up. It'll be pretty quick. Almost there, guys. Getting it up. These are certainly interesting times that we're living in, huh? All right, almost there. Going as quick as I can. If I talk too much, I make typos. I guess I can't multitask that good when I'm typing. All right, I'm going to put my email address up real quick and that'll be it. All right. Okay. All right, let me just pin one up there. Done. All right, being a Bible-believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise and then we'll get started. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so right now we're in what's called Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles, but it's the rabbi's Talmudic date for it. It's incorrect with the Bible date. It's not the right date for it, but they're observing it, and it's interesting to see the Israeli soldiers in Gaza and I think Lebanon too, or at least up by the north near Lebanon, have constructed sukkah, which is the booth. They say you're supposed to be able to see the stars in the sky through the roof of the thing. They're out there constructing those in the field. So while it's the wrong date, they don't know that. And I just want to say this, okay? This is the only army in the world that would ever build a sukkah. That's Yiddish, I think. But anyway, the booth for Feast of Tabernacles in the battlefield. And you gotta ask yourself if, where does that, how does that hold up with God? How does he look at that? Well, they don't know the date's wrong. And they're taught badly, but their eyes are blinded and their ears are stopped up. So I think it carries some weight with Jehovah. I do. I think so. So I would say I'm proud to see them doing it, although they don't know the dates are wrong, you know. Okay, the rabbinical Talmudic calendar is about 250 years off, roughly. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. It's over 200 years off anyway. So all right. So the big question for today is: when is Israel going to attack Iran, or have they already attacked Iran? Good question. Well, you know, we did that massive cyber attack on Iran, which the European and North American press didn't cover. And it came up in a lot of pro-Shiite Muslim terrorist media. And it came up in India. Now, I go to the news in the country of India, because you can pick a lot of it up in English. I have no knowledge of Hindu dialects, you know. And they covered it extensively. So it appears to me it was real, because they're pro-terrorist, pro-Muslim terrorists, pro-Iran, pro-Hezbollah, pro-Hamas, pro-Houthis, anti-Israel, and they covered it heavily. So I do believe it really happened. Now, you have to understand, a lot of people that don't live in the Middle East don't get this. But Israel doesn't always take credit for things it did. Now, the way Israel looks at it is, okay, we did a massive cyber attack on Iran. What's the point of rubbing their nose in the dirt? What's the point of it? We did the damage. We got the win. Walk away with the win. Forget it. We don't have to go run around and insult them. Let them go ahead and make believe it never happened. Then they won't do anything about it. And that's a good thing for Israel. So that, I believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, really happened. Now, there was a fire at a city in Iran called Isfahan or Ashafan, whatever. I think it starts with an ISH. And I don't remember if it was a military base or a refinery or a nuclear site or something. And it caught ablaze. It had some very significant, serious fires. And then about 3 days ago, maybe 2 days ago, there's so many things happening, I can't get all the time frames in my head straight anymore. It's just, there's a flood of things going on every hour, you know, just about every hour. So they had one of their oil refinery ports, okay? Now, that means there's piers and ships pull up, and I've seen this happen in other countries when I was in the world taking cruises. They have big tanks that they put oil in near the pier, and they run hoses from the pier. You know, well, they might have pipelines, they might have hard pipes too in different, who knows, different places. They'll usually put 2 or 3 connections or something like that in the boat and start filling the boat up from the tank. Okay, the tank is huge, right? Massive thing, right? So Iran's story of what caused the fire, and I don't know much about an explosion, and maybe there was, but as far as I believe they did activate anti-aircraft missiles. I think they did, but I don't remember for sure now. It might have been Isfahan. But in any event, they could have done that because they didn't know what was going on. So what I believe happened, well, the Iranian story, which is like, you know, out in Gaga land, you know, it's they said that an oil tanker ran aground and hit the oil tank on the shore and caused the explosion fire type event. It's a serious situation that happened there, big fires. I don't even know if they got it put out yet. Maybe, I don't know. It's very hard to get news out of Iran. First of all, you can't go to the social media from Iran and get anything other than maybe soccer ball scores or weather reports or something. You don't get anything. I mean, their social media is so sanitized. Now, you can go to Hezbollah social media, Hamas, places like that in Syria and Iraq, and you can, translate the stuff out of Arabic and you can get information. But I would say maybe half of it is lies. Like the Houthis fire some missiles at the port of Israel in Haifa, and then they broadcast, "We just hit Haifa." Yet the people at Haifa don't know anything about it. So the missile or the drone failed and fell down or was taken down. So it's lies, one lie after another. Okay, let's talk about this. If an oil tanker was in there by the pier, it wasn't going at 25 knots to dock up at the pier. Let's get real, okay? That's, it was probably going at 2 or 3 knots. In other words, it was creeping. So if a boat was going 2 or 3 knots on the side of a pier and you were walking on the pier, you could probably keep up with it if you were walking at a brisk pace. So now what they want us to believe is this ship, what, they just made a wrong turn? They're docking up by a pier, they made a wrong turn or something? Come on. And then they ran aground. Well, a ship going 2 or 3 knots an hour, parking speed, it isn't going to. And a matter of fact, what they do in a modern ship, now I agree, this could have been an old dumpy ship, but it would have side thrusters, so it would line itself up by the pier, be maybe 20 or 40 feet away or something, and then they'd use thrusters on the side of the boat to push it up against the pier. But it could have been an old dumpy boat, not a modern boat, or maybe the tank is too heavy for thrusters. I don't know. But cruise ships will do that with a side thruster. So anyway, if a ship hits the shore by mistake, it's going at a low speed. If it's at a pier, we're not talking about it was washed ashore in a storm with 40-foot waves and 80-mile-an-hour winds. That's called shipwrecking. No. The boat would probably stop when it hit the shore because it's not going fast. Or it might go in 5 or 10 feet. I mean, maybe 15 feet. Now, they don't put these oil tanks 10, 15, 20, 25 feet from the water. They're set back. I would say, probably 60 yards, They don't put them right at the water's edge. Why would they do something stupid like that? I don't think they do that. Even if they did, they wouldn't put it 18 inches from the water. The story stinks. So what I discern, what I believe I was shown happened is this is a result of the cyber attack. Did we detonate the fire on purpose, or did the cyber attack just launch things? And this was a result. Probably not that. We probably embedded viruses that replicate like crazy inside their computer systems, and they may never get them out. They may have to reformat their drives to get rid of these things, and then they lose their data, and they could be backing up constantly, and the virus could have spread to the backup file, the drive that's doing the backup. So what does that mean? That means if they wipe the disk of the computer and reformat it, right, then they download the data from the storage bank, their cloud, if you will, right, their backup files. Well, then they're going to download the virus again. So this, I'm sure, was a very sneaky, dastardly virus that's hard as heck to get a hold of, and when you try to eradicate it, it's probably squirrels around and replicate. I don't know. I don't know. But that's what I believe happened. And something happened the other day at Ishafan too, which was probably the same thing. So Biden goes and tells Israel, don't attack the oil refineries. And Israel says, yes, sir, Mr. Biden, we won't attack the oil refinery, right? Okay. Now that's just a put on job. That's not real. That's for the press. Because they don't want, what happens if Biden says, yeah, Benji, go attack the oil refineries, and he goes and blows up the big port pier with the oil refinery and the storage tanks and everything. Well, then Iran is forced to retaliate against Israel because saving face is very important to the Muslim terrorist organizations in the Middle East. Okay? So Iran played the cyber attack without ever admitting it publicly. Okay? But the news media in India is Muslim, and they're Shiite and pro-terrorism, pro these Shiite Muslim terrorist organizations that are on the list of terrorists, terrorist states and organizations. So they carried the story so extensively. I mean, it was broadcast all over the place with them. Well, it was real. So America and Europe didn't want to carry the story because then when the fires break out and the Iranians are going to, everybody's going to say, oh, the stinking Jews did this to you. What are you going to do now? If you don't do anything about it, they're going to come back and do it again and again and again. Right? So Iran took the position of, okay, we're going to just deny this like it never happened. Right? All right. Great. So then Israel plays into it. How do they play into it? Well, I just told you. So Iran's not in a good position to say, well, we're going to retaliate to Israel for these cyber attacks on our oil refinery. When they did the cyber attack, they got in our system and they caused these things to happen. See, they dug their ditch. Now they got to lay in it. You got the picture? Okay, I think you got the picture. So that's what it appears to be going on. So do I think the attacks have already begun? Oh, yeah. Now, is there going to be a big one coming? Oh, yeah. But it might not be a massive attack in one day. It might be a bunch of attacks. But let me just once again break this down for you. The threat of Iran, and by that I'm going to go to the biblical word Elam from Jeremiah 49, which I'm going to go to now. Yes, I know the church never talks about this, and actually some of them do. Actually, you can find a few of them that do. I'll read in Jeremiah 49, starting in verse 34. The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah the prophet against, does that really say, Navi, prophet. Yeah, that's the word, Navi. Navim is plural. So if you wanted to say two witnesses in Hebrew, you say Shtaim Navim, two witnesses. Two prophets, rather, prophets. If you wanted to say prophet, Navi, so you would go Eliyahu for Elijah, or Eliyahu, Navi, the prophet. Okay, anyway, against Elam. Elam consists of, back then it was what we call southwest Iran, and also part of Iraq and Syria. Was a country in an old day, many, many centuries ago, called Elam, E-L-A-M in English. The Hebrew for Elam is Elam. So you could say Elam or Elam. if you say Elam to a Hebrew speaker, they'll understand what you mean, I think. So, when you have a piece of Iraq, today it's in the nation of Iraq. So you can't just go destroy a piece of Iraq and a piece of Iran and a piece of Syria. That'd be rather difficult, I think, right? Because the country itself would mobilize against such aggression, right? So it's the destruction of Iran, Iraq, and Syria, and they're all tied together. Syria and Iraq are proxy states of Iran. Big, organized proxy states. Different than Hezbollah, because the real government of Lebanon is not a proxy of Iran. They don't like Iran one bit. Hamas is a proxy of Iran, and they also are the government of Gaza. And the Houthis are not the government of Yemen, but the government of Yemen backs them more so than the government of Lebanon. They really back the Houthis. Got it? All right. So, progressing in the Bible prophecy. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts. I've got to turn the light on the screen down because I had it outside. iPads are supposed to be the best for brightness outside, but when the sun's out, oh man, it's really hard to see the screen. If the sun hits the screen, you got to really work at it to see it. It doesn't come easy. All right, so where was I? The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. So he got the prophecy during the reign of this king Zedekiah. That's when he received the prophecy. It wasn't for that time. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Okay, Elam is not an individual, it's the country breaking the bow, the chief of their might, their major weapon, the bow. What is a bow? Well, that's the missile launcher, and the arrow is the missile. It's not hard to understand. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no heathen nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So they're going to get sent out to, because that's what they want to do to Israel. They want to run Israelis out of the country. I'm hearing reports of 400,000 up to 1 million Israelis have left during the war. Now, do they intend to come back? Yeah, but sadly, a lot of Israelis, the secular ones especially, which is half of Israel, are afraid that Israel won't be a nation anymore, really. They might just think, well, we had it lucky for a while and we had an Israeli state and now it's over. The secular ones. The religious Jews, no, they're not buying that one. Okay. So they want us to leave Israel, millions and millions, and then they just move into Israel and it becomes, a Muslim nation, and they draw it in, and, East Jerusalem fills up with mosques and minarets, and that's the site of the temple and all of that, right? That's their plan. So it happens to them. The concept here is reap what you sow. I will curse those that curse you and bless those that bless you. Well, they're cursing Israel, They verbally curse Israel in the mosques, I guess. And I don't go to the mosques, I don't know, I assume so. And that's what they want to happen to Israel. And then once we're scattered amongst the nations, Satan would be okay with that for a while, because he has no threat to deal with of a temple and the glory God of Israel and the temple and all that. So he'd be okay with that. That's why all the nations of the world, or 90% of them, are pushing for a two-state solution where we give the West Bank back, which includes East Jerusalem, the site of the temple. So if that's in Muslim hands, Satan breathes easy, and then he's not very worried too much about what goes on in Israel. It ain't happening. America pressured us to give the Sinai Peninsula back. We did. Now Egypt has it. It had oil, and we were afraid of Israel, of America, and we did it. Then in 2008, they pressured the daylights out of us to give Gaza back. We did it. It turned into an armed fortress against us. So now they tell us to give the West Bank back, Samaria and Judea, including East Jerusalem. There's no, the Israeli people are not that blind. They're not going to go for that because it's just going to turn into another Gaza. It's obvious to an Israeli. You know, and then Obama would tell us to give it back, and he had his military study the situation and come up with all these plans to give Israel all kinds of weapons and, I guess, money to put walls up and stuff like that to keep them out. And, you know, look at Biden. You know, the reason he's giving us weapons is there's a treaty with us. And what did we hear the other day from Blinken and Austin, the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, is that they want Israel to stop bombing Beirut and to provide humanitarian aid that gets to the Palestinian people in Gaza. So yesterday, 50 trucks came in for humanitarian aid, and I don't know how well the distribution went, but the humanitarian aid got turned on to the front burner with a high flame, and Netanyahu did it. And we didn't attack Lebanon for 5 days, but guess who we attacked late? I think it was late afternoon yesterday. We attacked Beirut, a Hezbollah military center. It was weapons storage or something. Surgical strike. So we didn't listen to that, and we went and attacked Beirut. I think you're just getting lip service out of Biden because he doesn't want to light Iran up until the time comes. So he's just sitting there, you know, saying, oh, no bombing Beirut, humanitarian aid. Well, I think he meant it with the humanitarian aid. Maybe he meant it with Beirut and then, you know, just didn't listen to him. But I don't think much will come of it because it wasn't a catastrophic civilian death type thing or anything like that. So we know that Elam is going to go, but let's get a little more details out of Elam, regarding Elam. In Jeremiah 49:36, and upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them towards those winds, and there shall be no heathen nation, no goyim. It means a heathen nation. It's referencing whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come, for I will cause Elam to be dismayed. Now the word for dismayed is shattered. Let me see how Strong's puts this word, which is Strong's number 2865, into English. What English word does Strong's use? Oh, it keeps giving me trouble, you know. Yeah, Strong says it means to prostrate, break down by violence or word or confusion or fear, and fear, abolish. Okay, So dismayed is a little bit of a wrong word for that. You know, busted up, and their spirit is broken. They're full of fear and everything. Okay, before their enemies. So the enemies is plural. So there's multiple states or nations or armies, or however you want to phrase it. Attacking Elam. So it's not just Israel and it's not just America. And it could be Israel and America, but I'm pretty sure it'll include others. And before them that seek their life. So they're seeking to kill Iran. So and Iraq and Syria, so they did something. And I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. And I will set my throne in Elam. That means he's going to judge Elam. He's not going to rule out of there. It's a Muslim state. They're Muslim states. And will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith Jehovah. So the king and the princes. Probably the president and the Khomeini character, Ayatollah Khomeini. And the last verse says, but it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam. Well, this is towards the end of the second 70 from Daniel 9:24 that we read Persia and the Gog and Magog attack. Daniel 9:24 in every single Hebrew manuscript I could ever get my hands on, going back to 900 AD, Daniel 9:24 reads Shavim Shavim, which means there's two 70s for Israel and Jerusalem. And 170 was the Babylonian Empire, where Israel was sent to Babylon for 70 years, and the second has not yet begun. It begins on the time of Zechariah 12:10. All right. So we know Elam's going to get it, okay? And it all makes sense, and it looks like it's lining up. And America wants Iran gone to break up BRICS. Russia brought either 10,000 soldiers from inside Russia or groups of 10,000 soldiers. It's hard to ascertain what actually happened to Ukraine. I think it was, it could have been 40, 50,000 soldiers or something. And he intends to push back. Now, North Korea came to Russia to help Russia fight Ukraine, and now we're getting reports of desertion. The North Korean troops by the front lines with Ukraine are running away. They have no nationalistic feelings or duty. It's like, they're not a worldly, intelligent people that are well educated. They could be intelligent, but they're not well educated. So they said, why am I over here? I don't even know what this deal is. And I don't want to get killed for this. So they're running away. Now, they're not the only ones running away. Hezbollah is running away, but I'll get to that. We now have 10 prisoners of Hezbollah soldiers. And I imagine by Monday or Tuesday we'll have 20 or 30. It's beginning. This is what happened in Gaza. Once we start getting the prisoners, then we get the intel. What are their plans? What are they saying they want to do? How are they compensating for no communication devices? where are missile launchers? Now, you know, you're probably thinking that they're going to get brought into a room, stripped down, tied up, and then get waterboarded and electrocuted. No, nah. They get brought into a room, and some guy speaking Arabic from Shin Bet, which is sort of, kind of in a way like the FBI, but it has differences. They bring him in a room. A guy sits down from Shin Bet, or maybe two of them, probably one, and they're clothed and everything. And they sit down with him and they say, my name is so and so, and this is my job, and I do this. And what's your name? The guy will probably respond, and then he says, would you like a soda or some tea or water? And then the guy will maybe give him a request, maybe not. Probably will. So he'll get probably a cold soda, no problem. And then the conversation goes on, you cooperate with us and you'll have very nice accommodations. You'll have nice, clean clothes. You'll have good food. We might even give you some cell phone time or computer email time or something. So the guy, the captured guy, is being, listen, you could have a good life here if you help us. We'll help you. We could get you resettled someplace. We could give you some money. We can work with you, but, work with us. I mean, your cause, then comes, your cause is lost. You can't win. You got no Navy, no Air Force, blah, 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 And they just wear the guy down. And, but they're not, they're using the carrot, not the stick. You don't get too far with this torture stuff, okay? They're not looking to bust them up. They want intel. What happened with the first one they caught? I'm gonna fix myself some tomato juice while we talk. So the first guy they caught was very cooperative immediately. There was no, waterboarding or, brutality or any of that nonsense. None of that went on. They, he said, look, they retreated. They were afraid of you. They ran away. When your soldiers came here, they took off. And he stayed behind in a bunker. For whatever reason, he stayed behind. And they caught him in the bunker. He was wearing his underwear when they caught him for some reason. I don't quite get it, but... And he was very cooperative. And he was explaining, I made a mess. He was explaining to them that the Hezbollah are running away from the IDF. They're afraid. They don't want to encounter them on the battlefield. The weapons are not that good, and they're not having a good time, and they don't want to be in close combat. Now, it's not everybody in Hezbollah. It's just a lot of them. So they're running up to the north to get away. They don't want to be, they don't want to get killed. And he explained to them that a lot of Hezbollah, were not, dedicated diehard Muslim terrorists that want to get their 70 virgins and be martyrs. That wasn't their goal at all. They had no interest in this. They were told, well, they what they said is the economy is so bad here in Lebanon, and it is bad, that Hezbollah was recruiting, and they joined so they could get money to feed their families. That was why they went into Hezbollah, just to provide for their families. So this gave us a lot of information, So there were pictures of him in captivity spread about in all the media in Lebanon and stuff, and in Israel, and it was shown that he was not beaten up or anything like that. He had nice clothes on, and he looked comfortable, and he was talking freely, and that's the state of them up there now. Now, that being said, we still have a bunch of idiots up there that go out and launch missiles and know that the chances of them getting killed for launching the missile are very high, and they do it anyway. So you got it both ways up there. You got lunatics, and you got guys that just went in because they needed to feed their family, and they're not very interested in the idealistic goals of Hezbollah, which is to kill all the Jews. So then, he was the first captive, and then we got 9 more, I think, in a day or two. So now it's spreading, and this is kind of how it worked in Gaza. We got a lot of captives, and we interrogate them nicely, because it's not real sensible to just go and say, well, we're going to waterboard you or something like that. You do better just going out there and, being nice to them and giving them, good food, maybe some cell phone time to talk to their family, or internet email, or, stuff like that. We're not doing, medieval, putting them on a rack like the Catholic Church did to people, We don't do that. I mean, you could, but this works better. These people were probably superficially trained in counter interrogation. At best, they were probably told that the Israelis will flail your skin off you alive and burn your eyes out and everything else to scare them so bad they don't surrender and they fight to the death. So it's important that we get these prisoners and display them without any bruises or marks, and nice clothes, and looking well fed and healthy. Because we'd much rather see them surrender. The idea of the Israeli government is not to take all of Hezbollah, put them in a concentration camp, and work them 24 hours a day till they die and starve them to death. That's not the goal. The goal is to dismantle them militarily. That's Netanyahu's goal. To completely disable their ability to be a fighting force. That's what Netanyahu's trying to do. So taking them captive is a good thing. Now, along with this comes, where are the missiles? How are the communications working? How does your travel work? How does this work? All of that goes along with it. So now that we got 10 of them, it's the beginning. And the collective intelligence from the 10 of them, I believe, is going to be rather massive. So we're having a tough time with Lebanon because that psychopath, what was his, Nasrallah, the guy they killed, and then they killed his replacement, and then his replacement's replacement is was a psychopath, really. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And he was completely dedicated to just killing all the Jews, wiping Israel out. That was his predominant idea, So he has been hiding missiles for almost 20 years up there in Lebanon. So it's a rough job to get rid of all of them, and we're working at it literally night and day, and we're making progress, but we haven't completely accomplished it yet. And they still get launches. And when you see all these red alerts, you see a big thing around Haifa or Tel Aviv like this with 40 red alerts. Okay. And you will find out when it's over that one missile or one drone was launched, or two drones or two missiles or something like that. Well, what's going on is the Iron Dome, in reality, in my opinion, is about 75% effective. But you need for me to explain that to you. They pick up an incoming bogey, an incoming projectile from the enemy, a drone, a missile. What's called missile, right? So the Iron Dome fires two proximity missiles at it. It picks it up. It predicts the trajectory of the missile, because we have not really seen, as far as I know, missiles coming from anybody, including Iran, that can change path during the flight. This type of capability seems to be lacking. Now, China and Russia probably have this capability, and they probably could transfer it to Iran if they were so inclined. It could be the case, okay? But so the Iron Dome predicts the path of a missile. If the missile's going to land in an open field, it does not fire at it, okay? If the missile's going to land in an agricultural field, it probably won't fire at it. It might, probably won't. If the missile's coming towards a base or a populated area, it will fire. It will fire two missiles at the incoming enemy missile. That are proximity fuses. In other words, when the missile gets within so many feet of the incoming bogey, it explodes. The Iron Dome explodes and blows shrapnel all over the place. So it doesn't have to get a precise hit. It just has to get close to the missile, and then it blows up. And it destroys the missile, and the Iron Dome come tumbling down. And they don't want people getting hit by the pieces of the blown up missile or pieces of the Iron Dome. Most of the injuries in Israel have been from shrapnel from the Iron Domes, but let me keep going. So you got about a 75% effectiveness when you fire one Iron Dome at it, but as the missile is traversing towards its target, they might fire at this missile from 3 or 4 Iron Dome locations. So on the path of the missile, they shoot at it and they accomplish a takedown. Okay? But they fire multiple Iron Domes at it from different locations. So that probably gives us a 95% or something like that takedown rate when you use multiple Iron Domes. So since there's going to be a lot of shrapnel up in the air, they call for red alerts all along the path of the missile, so the people stay away from being out in the street, and then the shrapnel won't hit them, if that makes sense. So that's why you see 40 red alerts for 2 missiles, because It looks scary. They didn't used to do this, but now they do. So they're using the protecting the people from the shrapnel using the red alert system. So apparently, if you're in your house, you're going to be okay from the shrapnel. The houses in Israel are normally made out of concrete, and they have a concrete roof with hard tile on the roof. So shrapnel is not a missile. It just comes down with gravity in small pieces, and it would be, even with a piece of a missile, the fuselage of a missile, it probably isn't going to do much if it hits your roof, you know. So that's how it's done, you know. And our house is an old house. I think it's around 1948, and it has the concrete roof with hard tile, and it also, the concrete is not concrete block, it's poured concrete with rebar in it and rocks in it and stuff like that. So it's kind of hardened concrete. So if someone shot a bullet at the walls of the house, I'm rather sure the only result would be a chip in the wall of the house. It wouldn't do anything. It's not a bomb shelter because we got windows, you know. But we do have we have two bomb shelters actually. So that's what goes on, you know, and that's why they do that. So let's talk about what happened last night, which is going to take us to when is the attack on Iran. Okay. The United States hit the Houthis last night in Yemen in 5 locations, but listen to what happened. They hit underground storage facilities of missiles, weapons, and other high-end war tools that the Houthis had. And the curious thing, I understand there were stealth jets with this, but multiple B-2 bombers came. B-2 bomber is a stealth bomber, and it carries lots of payload, heavy bombs. And they blew up these underground facilities in Yemen in 5 locations, 5 sites in 2 different cities that are controlled by, or provinces or regions, whatever they call it in Yemen, that were controlled by the Houthis. Okay? It's pretty serious because America really rarely ever runs around using B-2 bombers. And this sent the message to the Houthis, yeah, a little bit, but it sent the message to Iran this big. And that message to Iran was, you better watch out. This is a sign of what's going to come. And we could reach underground facilities. Now, I don't know how far down these underground facilities that were attacked last night were. I mean, I would not get the impression they were 90 feet down. They were probably more of the conventional, 30, 40 feet or something like that. It's a rather costly enterprise to go out and build an underground facility, let alone 5 of them that are going to go down 90 or 100 feet with all this heavy reinforced concrete. You got to remember that when you build something down that far, you have to support the structure, the weight of the land on top of the bunker. And that's no mean feat. So you're going to have to put very thick walls in your bunker, and a heavy ceiling, and you got to have lots of steel girders and beams to support it. And quite frankly, I don't think the Houthis are on that level. Okay? And again, they don't have that kind of money, And what is it they're trying to protect? Well, they're trying to protect weapons that are given to them for free from Iran, or they manufacture them themselves with Iranian money and everything. So that's what, it looks like to me. That these were just, run of the mill, 20, 30 foot down tunnels. And they probably were using 2,000-pound bombs. And from what I understand, they destroyed them. So on the one hand, it was sending a signal to Iran. On the other hand, they were disabling the Houthis because they know when the big attack comes on Iran, Iran's going to call Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and everybody else they can muster up and say, dump on Israel, give Israel everything you got, go become martyrs, and stuff like that, right? So they want to disable that. Plus, the Houthis threatened to get into an open naval warfare battle with the Americans and the Brits, which is rather stupid, So, they're basically getting dismantled. Now, I don't know if this one attack last night was sufficient. We may see more, or we may not. I don't know. The B-2 is a long-range stealth bomb, and multiples were used. At about the same time last night, Israel went into Syria at Latakia, or Latakia, which is where the Russians maintain a Navy base on the water of the Mediterranean, and in inland a few kilometers they have an air base. They went in there and destroyed Iranian positions there, and it was probably missiles and rockets and drones and radar and soldiers and everything else, but it was Iranian stuff. The Iran IRGC was there, and they got reasonably well obliterated. Okay. And that's right on Russian military base area. It might have been a few hundred meters off the base or something. And Russia did evacuate their soldiers from 17 installations they have in Saudi Arabia, in Syria. And the Syrian rebels in Syria that hate Bashar Assad, the guy who runs the country now, are rising up in a very coordinated fashion against Bashar Assad's regime. And he's sending his soldiers out to conduct open battles with them. Now, somebody is helping these revolutionary forces against Bashar Assad, which could be UK, America, Israel, NATO, I don't know, probably America and Israel. That happened last night. So and then again, we hit Beirut yesterday in the afternoon. Although Biden said not to, we did it. So what's going on here is Israel, with the help of America, I would have to say, to some extent, is attacking the Iranian proxies in the region that could be unleashed against Israel in a suicide fashion. In other words, just launch all the missiles you can. Don't worry about them, instead of launching 1 or 2 missiles and then running away and hiding, just stay there and keep launching them and keep launching them. We'll break the Zionists, And they don't want to do that because they're going to get killed. They're going to get killed doing that. So they, anyway, they might do it. So we're taking preventive measures and trying to knock them down to size or knock their capabilities down as much as we can before we attack Iran. That's essential to us for our protection. Hamas squeezed off 2 missiles yesterday. See, even they could still occasionally get their hands on a missile or two because they too have been hiding them all over Gaza for many years. So they managed 2 launches. They were taken down. It didn't cause any problems. So their, destructive capability against Israel in Gaza is very, very, very slight at this point. But it still requires our manpower from the military. We got to keep Iron Domes near there. We got the surveillance there with drones and aircraft. Keep tanks there, soldiers there. It's a pain in the neck. We don't want it. And now we're doing more humanitarian aid again, which is stupid. But that's what Biden wanted, and Netanyahu immediately gave him what he wanted. Probably because he figures that Hamas is rather defunct right now and doesn't pose a serious threat to us. So if they have fuel and water and food, well, so what? Hamas stored a massive amount of food and bottled water and fuel from stealing the humanitarian aid from the people. So then probably figured, we'll just make sure this stuff goes to the people. And Hamas doesn't get their hands on it. So I don't think Netanyahu took a great deal of issue with that. So before there's a big attack on the entire military and government infrastructure of Iran, and the missile launches, of course, and missile warehouses, missile factories, drone warehouses, drone factories, we need to reduce the capability of Iran hurting us through the proxies, which is going on. That's one reason for the delay. The other reasons are the THAAD missile system. I think it was here yesterday, but it's not operational. There's 100 U.S. soldiers sent with it to operate it. Apparently, these things are not going to be, a 3-hour course in how to push the buttons and make it work. It might take weeks of training, maybe 3 months or more for the operators to learn how to work the THAAD system. So 100 soldiers, you got to understand there'll be shift work on the THAAD system. They might work 8-hour shifts, 6-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, who knows. Probably because you got to be pretty alert, I'd say would be a 6 or 8-hour shift. And, so I don't know how many guys got to work a THAAD, maybe 2, 3, or 4, or 5, I don't know. But I would say we probably got 3 to 5 THAAD systems. And I'm sure 1 or 2 will go to Tel Aviv and maybe some in Haifa. I don't know how they're going to distribute it. I don't know how many there really are. Could be 6 or 7, I don't know, or 8. I don't know. So they're not going to be operational. Today's Thursday, so I would guess Saturday, Sunday, something like that, they'll be operational, as a guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's extensive radar hookups. I don't know. So it's not going to be that fast, but it'll happen. The Harry Truman aircraft carrier is probably at least 2 to 3 days away with that aircraft carrier group, which is probably going to dock someplace off the coast of Israel, probably far enough away from Hezbollah to not worry about anti-ship missiles or other missiles, yet close enough to do takedowns for Israel. Now, the takedowns would be with the 3 destroyers in the group. They would take missiles down as well. The aircraft carrier is not going to take any missiles down. And they got to keep that out of range of anything that could come out of Gaza or Hezbollah. So that's another reason we're waiting. So once the THAAD missile system's in place, which is probably over the weekend and operating, I guess over the weekend, then comes the aircraft carrier, which will probably be here, the Truman aircraft carrier, about the same time. The Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier is in the Sea of Oman, right outside the Persian Gulf. So it's in place there. And the second aircraft carrier is probably not going to go to the Persian Gulf. There's a chance it might go to Yemen to curtail anything Yemen wants. That's a possibility as well. I don't know. I don't think so. They're finished with diplomacy with Yemen. They're interested in just dismantling the Houthi regime. They're not very interested in playing nice with them, you know. So that's basically giving you an idea. I think within a week or 10 days, we'll probably see an attack on Iran. A substantial attack that will be targeting their missile launch capability. Like I told you, drone launch, missile storage, drone storage, missile factory, drone factory, all kinds of military bases. Will America join in the attack? My opinion on this is not at first. They'll let Israel do it, and then Iran will start retaliating. America will say, cut that crap out, and they won't, and then they'll start joining in. Or, more likely scenario, is Iran will start launching against the American bases in the area and starting to take out the oil refineries and the ports and piers to offload the oil onto tanker ships in the Arab countries in the region: Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and UAE. And I think that that will be the real trigger for America. And they'll just throw the kitchen sink at Iran. And they'll cry for NATO, and some NATO countries will come. France, I don't think will do anything. I think Macron is so incompetent, such an idiot. You know, you're not going to get anything out of him. Eventually, Russia will probably attack France, and that's that. Or the Muslim terrorists in his country will start overthrowing him. He's just too stupid. He's living in a mansion. He's running a country that's a rather substantial country with a substantial military, although it's not what it used to be. And he doesn't want anything to change. He has no use for war. He just wants to stay there and party, you know. So he's, like I said, he's really like Biden without the dementia. You know, he manages to be stupid all on his own. He doesn't need dementia to make him stupid. He gets there on his own. He's really one of the biggest incompetents in the world. And Russia may take advantage of that if they have an interest in it. Although Russia is very interested in attacking the UK if it can. I'm checking the chat. Somebody wrote Ezekiel 3, I think, 17 and 19. I'll see if I can pull that up. Ezekiel 3. Okay, Ezekiel 3:17. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt die, and thou givest him warning, giveth him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his lawlessness, but his blood will I require at thy hand. Yet thou warn the wicked, and if he turn not his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his lawlessness, but thou shalt be delivered. Okay, so he's saying if I send you to warn somebody and you don't warn them, the blood's on your head, they're still gonna suffer. But if I send you to warn them and you warn them and they don't pay attention to it, well, you're no blood on your head. Okay. Why are they fighting? That would take a long time. Isn't it humanitarian aid to remove Hezbollah from Lebanon? No, they're not putting humanitarian aid really up in Lebanon, no. 40 soldiers ran away out of 10,000. Well, that could be the case, but it's the beginning, you know. Oh, someone said I should take iron supplements. That's interesting. I'll look into that. No, they did have AC in the tunnels in Gaza. I saw pictures of AC units. Mission creep. Okay. Don't know that word. The shackles are going to come off soon. You had a typo. Yes. There's, as you call it, shackles internal from the government and then all from the nations, and they'll both be gone. What about the civilians? I don't know which ones you're talking about. We tried it in Lebanon, not get the civilians. Civilians humbug. Well, in Lebanon, there really are Catholics and Christians that I would say are civilians. And there's Hindus and Baha'i and other people up there. It's not all Muslims. I did not get an electric generator at home, no. I got a little device I could run my cell phone on with solar and, charge that and that type of thing. They say hypersonic can change course, but our Israeli Defense Forces said that in the last attack there was no there were no hypersonic missiles used. They say they do, but we're told they're not. Who owes that pig? I don't know what they're talking about. Been in Gaza 1958 with the UN. Oh, okay. Oh, Iran's been preparing for a long time. Um, they're, it's a funny thing. They, like the Bible said, the chief of their might is their missiles. They don't have a balanced military. They don't have anything resembling a real navy, and they don't have anything in terms of an air force with pilots and planes. They don't have. They have tanks to defend the country. They put a lot of their military is to make Iran very resilient to an invasion, and it truly is resilient to an invasion. It would be a super duper massive undertaking to do a ground invasion in Iran, but their anti missile defense systems are junk and they can't hold up. So you really don't have a balanced military thing going on in Iran. It's immature. It's not a serious military. Okay. So I'm going to be back in a minute. What Iran was trying to do to Israel was use the proxies surrounding Israel to annihilate Israel as much as they can. And it didn't work out for them, but that's what they were trying to do, have the proxies wear Israel down. A lot of Israelis have left the country, and they wanted more of that, and they want to wear the military out, run our resources out, all this kind of stuff. And it didn't work for them. So they lost Hamas as a proxy. They're about to lose Hezbollah. And they're not doing well with Syria. And Iraq is a little bit too immature militarily and too far away to be that bad of a threat. And Turkey has got a big mouth, but you're not going to see, I don't think we're going to see that much in this round of biblical wars, which is Zechariah 12, actually, Jacob's trouble. And the Houthis are, well, they're too far away. They don't have that much technology. And they were stupid enough to irritate the world with closing the Red Sea. So America and the UK have bombed them probably 15 times. And they seem to be escalating. Now, using a B-2 bomber is very, very significant. That's a big deal. So America's saying, okay, we had it with the Houthis, they got to go. Now, they're not trying to genocide the Houthis, they're trying to wreck their military capability. And Israel's dismantling Syria, which is going to help America because they have a number of bases along with the UK. UK has at least one base in Syria, maybe that's it. They want to deactivate them so they can't really present a serious threat to the American bases. Why the hate comes in? Because I'm a Jew in Israel. That's why the hate comes in. What do you think? That's where the hate comes. Why it comes. Okay, so I would say a week or 10 days, you're probably going to start to see Israel attack Iran, hitting the threats, which is what can launch missiles at us, what can cyber attack us, where is their command and intelligence infrastructure, and how can we disrupt that? There's things like this, okay? And it's probably going to be a succession of attacks. I don't think Israel has the capability to do it all in one day. Best case, we got 50 F-35s. We may not have that many. We may be more like 40. And I think America did an express transfer, I'm guessing, of F-15XEs, which are those super F-15s. Those things are pretty potent. They carry 12 ARAM missiles. The ARAM missile is a hypersonic at 4,000 plus miles per hour. Iran's got nothing that's going to stop them. And each one carries 12. They are also very, very useful to take drones down, because they could get a lock on the drone. The drone's an easy target if you know it's there. They get a lock on the drone and they launch, air-to-air missile, and good night drone. The ARAM got a range of perhaps about 60 miles, depending on what version ARAM, about 60 miles. The S-400, not the S-300, the Russian anti-missile defense system, the S-300 is junk. The S-400 is only half junk. It can detect an F-15, and it could fire on the F-15. The F-15 is not a stealthy jet. they got a lot of junk hanging off the wings and the fuselage of the F-15 and also inside the body of the plane. So it could carry, I believe, up to 29,000 pounds of stuff. Now, I thought it was 26,000. I think today I got corrected. It's 29,000. That's massive, okay? And the sucker goes Mach 2.6. So it's not an easy thing to knock out, but it's not a stealth jet. So you would want to deploy it in an area where you're not likely to encounter sophisticated anti-missile systems like an S-400, or maybe the Chinese have something that's good and so forth. But if you want to run it against Hezbollah, Gaza, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, it's fine. Now, there are S-400 systems in Iran. Not a ton of them, but they have some. So they would need to be taken out, and the F-35 can do that. The S-400 is not going to be effective against F-35s, especially the ones Israel has modified. Now, America also has F-22 Raptors here, and that is, extremely stealthy. So the idea is you open up the door with the F-35 by knocking out the radar, opening up corridors where the S-400, it's got a range of a few hundred miles, that S-400, of detection, but I don't think it could. As far as I would guess, it can't do takedowns out 200 miles. It can pick it up. Now, the range of the ARAM is 60 miles, and I would guess the S-400 isn't going to be very effective at a takedown of 60 miles. I think when you're talking, maybe 10 miles or 15 or 20 even, it can be pretty effective. But, so it's possible that the ARAM could fire from the F-15XE, could fire on the S-400, and then kick the afterburners into gear and get out of there at high speed. And they get just close enough to launch on the S-400 with an ARAM at hypersonic speed of over 4,000 miles an hour, and they take the radar out, and the S-400, I don't believe, could attack a target even at 60 miles. I could be wrong, but the idea is you launch your missile and it goes fast and it closes in on the jet and locks in on the heat or whatever it's locking onto, and the jet can't lose it, and that's that. But when the jet's far away, like 50, 60 miles, it picks up that there's been a radar lock on it and there's a launch. Well, the fighter jet does quite a bit of time to take countermeasures against what's coming at them, Could do a lot of things. Could launch countermeasures, chaff or electronic. Can change altitude, go up, go down, go behind mountains and things like that. I mean, there's things that could be done, Usually when they launch, it's going to be within a few miles of the plane, Trying to take a missile down is one thing. Trying to take an aircraft down is another matter altogether. Israel also has a fleet of Dolphin submarines, and most of our submarines can launch missiles, a variety of missiles, and some of our submarines are when they go underwater, they're driven with an air propulsion system. I said air, AIR, and that makes these submarines super stealthy. Okay. Well, whoever's posting MHub, I don't know what that means. I really don't care. I'm gonna block them because they're spamming the chat. And that's not correct. So I imagine it has some bad meaning to it, whatever the heck it is. Whatever that is, I don't know. So that's where we're at right now with the war. Um, I could certainly take questions. You could put them up in the chat. Let me check the news for any recent events since we got on the air here. Um, the attack on the Iranian facility in Latakia, Syria area was actually about 9 kilometers from the, I'm sorry, 9 miles from the Khomeini air base that Russia runs. So it wasn't right on the Russian base. Russia did not activate their air defense systems on the base. So I guess they got a phone call. It has been brought up that there was an Iranian cargo plane that landed there a few days ago. So this was probably waiting for them to get the missiles off the runway into some structure, a building, a warehouse, and that's what was hit. There was a lot of secondary explosions. So the B-2 bomber is also stealth, by the way, that America used in Yemen. This B-2 stealth bomber is the most expensive aircraft ever made by anybody. 44 billion dollars per plane. You know, they may not have used 2,000-pound bombs. They may have used 5,000-pound bombs on these strikes at the 5 sites in Yemen. Let's see. IDF is warning people in Lebanon to stay 800 meters away from targeted buildings. Things like this are going on. Um, they still don't have an elected president in Lebanon, and now they're saying that there's a guy, okay, Nabia Berri, Speaker of the Lebanese Parliament and Chairman of the Amal Shiite movement. So, in other words, he's aligned with Hezbollah. Said that the election of a president in Lebanon will be suspended until after the war. Well, they don't want anything like that, of course. Oh, now I think yesterday Jordan came up with humanitarian aid for Gaza. Now we got the UAE is airdropped today um, in the southern part of Gaza humanitarian aid. I think we brought it into the north yesterday. So, Netanyahu said, okay, Biden's giving me a hard time. I'll turn the humanitarian aid on again. Trying to see if we got anything. It's been a little bit on the quiet side the last couple hours. Uh, they say Israel has apartheid. It really doesn't at all. There's social, the Arabs and the Jews don't mingle very much. That's about it. I mean, the Arabs work in a lot of Israeli companies and in the government, and that's not apartheid. Well, I don't see anything happening so far. What else is there? Let me go back in my notes for a minute. South Korea said that if North Korea continues fighting in Ukraine, they're going to send South Korean troops to Ukraine. It's getting crazier and crazier, you have to admit. It's just getting crazier and crazier. That's it, you know. I want to check a scripture here. Jeremiah 51:33. For thus saith Jehovah of armies, the Elohim Israel, God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon, that's America, is like a threshing floor. It's time to thresh her yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. See, it appears that the United States has its own harvest, which is okay. Threshing floor, you separate the chaff or the tares from the wheat. The chaff or the tares are burned up, and the wheat is gathered into the barn. The barn is Israel. This is saying there's going to be a harvest. The bad ones are going to get destroyed, burned up, and the good ones will be leaving America, going to Israel. Now, I had a thought, because we talk, there's a lot of Canadians here, and we talk about, okay, what's going to happen with Canada? Well, you can't just unilaterally say Canada's going to receive the same punishment as the daughter of Babylon, because it does not have anywhere near the guilt that the daughter of Babylon has done to the world. Trudeau didn't go to Afghanistan and then pull out and leave the Taliban with all those weapons. America, Trudeau didn't go to Vietnam. Trudeau didn't go attack Kuwait. Canada is nothing like America. Canada's not significantly crippling North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia with sanctions. They might put sanctions on, but they're not crippling kind. Canada doesn't run the SWIFT system and weaponize the banking system of SWIFT and the US dollar. The Canadian dollar is not the dominant country in the world. Nobody's going to war because oil and natural gas doesn't sell in Canadian dollars. So to say they're going to get the same punishment as the daughter of Babylon makes no sense to me. But then again, we go back to Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed and the nearby cities. Well, the nearby cities were involved in the same evil debauchery that Sodom and Gomorrah were, apparently. So is Canada involved with the same bad, abominable things that America does? Yes, for sure. Does that mean it's a possibility it gets destroyed? I'd have to say there is such a possibility. I can't give you a definitive answer. Now, on the other hand, we know that the enemy, when they invade America, are going to enter in from the uttermost place, which I don't think it would be fair to say that's Mexico or the Pacific coast or the Atlantic coast or the Gulf of Mexico. You could say the Florida Keys, but maybe. But the uttermost place fits better with two places, Hawaii and Alaska. But since Hawaii is so far away from America, while it's a real part of America as a state, I'm not seeing that because you can't enter into 48 state America from Hawaii, nor can you from Alaska, but in a way you sort of can because you could drop down through Canada and come in. And Russia is very close to, what is it, the Bering Straits? That's 48 miles distance from that part of Russia to Alaska. And Russia's already showing an interest in Alaska with flights over there and stuff like that, and Navy ships and all the good stuff that creates tensions. So I'm thinking here for a minute. It sort of lends itself to that. I mean, we could talk about Florida, which is not separate from the 48 states. It is part of the 48. It's an utmost part. We could argue that, and that could be another possibility come through the Florida Keys, which is 90 miles from Cuba. And Cuba could hold a massive amount of soldiers, if they're going to live in tents and stuff, a massive amount. So they could go to America that way. Interesting, isn't it? But I'd have to say we have to be slow to judge Canada as the same as America just because it's next door. Are we going to judge Mexico also that way? It doesn't make a lot of sense. What about islands in the Caribbean like Bimini? Cuba would be another one, of course, and the Nassau and the Bahamas and all of that. Jamaica and Cayman Isles, and we're going to judge them that way also. So you see, it's a hard question to answer, and the problem with the prophecies is not a real problem. Is God chose to reveal to us the nature of what's going to happen and how it's going to end. But the path to how we get to where the prophecy ends is generally not given to us in great detail. When we're dealing with the daughter of Babylon and we read Isaiah 47, Jeremiah 50 and 51, we get quite a bit of detail. Like, for instance, we read Jeremiah 49 about Elam getting destroyed. Well, we don't get a whole lot of detail. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know that much. We know the missiles will be taken out. We know many enemies are going to go there, and there's going to be a diaspora out of Elam, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. But we don't get the build-up. Why did this happen? Who attacked who? What was the preemptive reason? We don't get that. So it's always difficult to call it when you're trying to look for timing on this. Sequencing sometimes is much easier to get, but that doesn't give you precision timing. It just shows you the order of the fulfillment of the prophecies. It does seem to me highly likely that the believers in Canada would leave on the second Exodus with the believers departing from America. I think that makes sense. It also could make sense for those, but again, they're not in the daughter of Babylon, and the daughter of Babylon has her own harvest. But then again, we go back to Sodom and Gomorrah, and, it basically puts us in a position of where I can't be certain, but it makes sense for Canada to go on the next great Exodus along with the people from America. It does make some sense, but I can't guarantee you that's the case. Okay, so we're in Shavuot, Feast of Tabernacles. It started last night, Wednesday night. It runs till next Wednesday night. Today's a legal holiday in Israel, and next Thursday is another legal holiday. So it's rather burdensome to function in Israel, especially when we have to observe the real biblical holidays, some of them that we can observe and do some things, and not work and stay around the house and things like that. Being a retired, we don't really have to worry about work. Preaching the scriptures on the internet doesn't bother me because Yeshua and the apostles went to the synagogues repeatedly on Shabbat, so I don't worry about that. But maybe I should. I don't think so. So what the government workers and the big companies accomplished is they were off on Thursday today. They're off on Friday because a lot of the government offices are closed on Friday. Then they're off on Saturday. It's Shabbat. And then Sunday. And then they're going to work on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Sunday, they're going to be out to lunch. It's going to be, oh, what'd you do over the hog? Hog is holiday. Oh, I did this. I did that, And they're going to, not get a lot of work done. Tuesday and Wednesday they'll work. Wednesday afternoon they'll flake off. Thursday they're closed. Friday they're closed. Saturday they're closed next week, and then Sunday. So this is the last of their big holidays. And it's really inconvenient, but because they're not my holidays, because the dates are wrong. But what are you going to do? Got to put up with it. So I tried to order groceries the other day, and I got a delivery date out into next week. I said, oh no, I didn't plan ahead enough. Frequently, I could get a same day. If I get up early in the morning, which I usually do, like I get on the internet at 6 o'clock in the morning, I could often get a delivery that day. Or the next day is pretty typical. A week out is just their observance of their holidays, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm stuck. So my wife went to the Arab supermarket today, where the food is cheaper and it's better. And we don't have to have the kosher meat. Kosher's not in the Bible. And we get better meat there and other things. So at lower prices, because you're not supporting the rabbis and the Talmud and the Kabbalah and all the other stuff. So we go, we do that, and it works out for us, but she has to go schlep over there. And nobody likes driving around on the roads during the missile attacks, So pray for her safety if you would. She's traveling around on the roads today. Rivka, pray for her safety and protection. And the bird's doing pretty good. No real problems. The bird we've been praying for, the name's Dolly. The owner wanted to see the bird, so I don't know. My wife's up in the air about keeping the bird or sending the bird back to the breeder that destroyed the bird and required all the surgeries, the idiot. I don't know if he'll want the bird. He's being told that the bird needs special attention now, and needs frequent feedings. And, I think the breeder's going to realize that if he sells the bird, people are going to be pretty ticked off over that. Because it's, so I don't know what he'll say. He might say he doesn't want the bird back. He wants the bird back. I don't know. So we're pretty much committed. If he wants the bird back and he understands what's involved, that's fine. But these idiots are not that loving towards the birds. It's just a way to make money with them, like a puppy farm or something. And he might not He might not want the bird, or he might want the bird. I don't know. But if he sells the bird, what's going to happen is eventually the bird's going to wind up back at the vet for some reason, and the vets, there's a few vets in the area, and they're all familiar with this bird. You know, there's two, I think, and they're going to know about it, and that's going to be a problem for him with the customer because they're going to really get upset at him. So I don't know what's going to happen. The bird is a nice, sweet bird, a gutsy little thing. Yesterday I was laying in the bed watching the iPad, and I was catching something in the corner of my eye that was moving, and I kept looking and I didn't see it. And I thought it was one of the dogs was probably coming in and wagging her tail or something, and I was picking it up in the corner of my eye. I didn't know what the heck it was. No noise. I go, why do I keep seeing this dog? I don't know where the dog is. I look, where's the dog, you know? Then I realized that the bird is climbing up my shelves. So it was a bird walking around the room. So I guess the bird likes me, doesn't see me as a threat, and went up some metal shelves and got where I keep some sunglasses, and hopefully she didn't scratch anything. And then I called for my wife to pick her up because I didn't want to pick her up because I don't hold her. And I didn't want her to get nervous. So my wife picked her up and took her back. So we got to be careful. She had an encounter with Beulah the dog the other day. Beulah saw the dog and thought it was fun. Went over to the dog and started sniffing at the dog. You know, that's what dogs do. They sniff everything, right? Sniffing the dog, and then the bird, and then the bird it's a cockatoo, picked its crown up and spread its wings out and started getting aggressive with the dog. So the next sequence could have been that the dog didn't know what the heck the bird was doing. He doesn't know aggressive signs from birds. He doesn't have experience with birds, you know. I mean, he sees them in the atrium, in the the birdhouse we have built, you know, but he doesn't, you know, the dog doesn't understand. So the bird would bite the dog, and then the dog would freak out and say, you know, holy hamburger, this bird is attacking me. I got to kill it. And that would be the end of the bird in like 1 second. They lock onto it and they shake their head, and the bird's neck breaks, and that's it. So we got to keep her away from the birds because the bird from the dogs, because the bird will start the fight. Cockatoos have the ability to scare a dog. Lots of times dogs, they're pretty big parrots. It'll lift its crown, spread its wings, and run at the birds, screeching loudly, and they can screech very loudly. And the dog doesn't understand what's happening and runs away, saying, you know, he doesn't see a dire threat. This little thing ain't going to eat him or anything like that. But he doesn't know what it's going to do to him, so he runs away. But if you're in a house and the bird starts cornering the dog, then the dog's going to say, well, I had enough of this crap. You know, here we go. So we got to watch that. So we got to keep her separate from the dogs all the time now. So she can't go on exploration walks around the house and see what kind of trouble she'll get into. Eventually she'll walk into one of the dog's cages and start picking at a bone, and the dog's not going to like the kennel. If they leave their bone there and the bird comes in and starts gnawing on the bone, well, the bird's not going to think the dog's not going to think that's a great idea. Amar Yehudi, yes. A Cohen, you know, Levite and a descendant of Aaron. So yeah, that's not going to go over well, you know. So, you know, we'll keep the prayers coming for the bird, and if you guys just subscribed, I'll keep you updated when the eggs start hitting the fan. I'll do live streams at unusual hours and frequently during the day. So you might want to subscribe. It'd be helpful if you hit the thumbs up button. It helps with the algorithm with YouTube, so everybody thinks anyway. And pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing. And pray for our finances and our animals and pets, which are all rescues, everyone, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray I make better videos, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Now, that fellow I had some talks with about expanding my internet work, and that might been the change that I was sensing. It might just be expanding the internet to, but this is in another language than, not an easy language like French or something. This is a real hard one, and there's no way I could do it, So we're talking, and we might do it in another language, so I could. Oh, I don't know how to do it. I could put it in a separate YouTube channel, or I can just put it on the same channel, which makes more sense, and just put it in a foreign language, the foreign language, and people would find it and get the true gospel spread around. So to do this, I have to instill correct Bible doctrine into this person, because you can't translate correctly easily unless you understand doctrine, because you're always going to hit a fork in the road where there's two or three different branches of the road talking about the translation. Do I translate to this word or that word or this thing? You have to have a pretty good idea of what the prophecies are really saying, and then you can run the translation, you know. Um, so that's something where, that I'm still up in the air with. So pray about it. It looks like it's probably going to go. Um, so that means I'm still on the internet, I guess. And now it may fall apart. I don't know. I I think the best way to do it is to have this person translate the live streams into this other language, and then we put it up in its own video. Uh, this is the kind of thing that if my offerings were sufficient, which are nowhere near, I would hire people in different languages to translate, like get somebody for Russian, get somebody for Arabic. You could do whatever you want, Japanese, Chinese, whatever you want to do. French, German, Spanish. Spanish is a huge market, huge. But I've never been able to raise enough offerings to hire somebody to do this. It would probably run about $3,000 to $4,000 a month full time, and the person would probably use their own computer and internet, and they would be translating. But again, I'd have to spend time with them on doctrine, and they'd have to be a believer, otherwise Satan's going to get into this. So you'd have to have a believer, which could be possible in Israel. It's not, it's rather likely possible. And then you just start doing it, Um, but I don't have that kind of money at all, and I'd love to do it with, 3 or 4 different languages, but people that come to listen to me as a Jew in Israel don't want to give money to the Jew. I'm telling you the truth. I'm a Jew. I know the discrimination. Were all the apostles Jews? Yes. Were most of the prophets Jews? Yes. Was Yeshua a Jew? Yes. Do the church people want to give money to a Jew? No. That's the reality. So I can't get it going. Years I've wondered about this, but I never had the funds. Um, I'd love to get a facility. I could use the guest house for that, where there's a room with a few computers and internet. We got plenty of high-speed internet back there, and put some tables and chairs out where they could work and watch it go down from here. Actually, it's actually 4 rooms, so I could have people work in different areas, so they when they talk into the mic, it doesn't flow over into the other guy. Doors can be closed, and I could run the studio here, and we could put this stuff up in different languages. You know, um, but you know, people do give. There's faithful subscribers that I'm very appreciative of that give, and they keep it going, but they don't give enough. They can't in most cases. It's not that they keep me going, but they can't keep it going to spread it around the world. So they just don't have the money, and that's it. And I'm not, I don't. I think I don't even get 1% of the subscribers give money. You know, I was listening to one of the churchianity preachers that's in America talk the other day, and he said we had so many visitors to the site, and I only got 16 people to give. Well, that was in one video. He's talking like that. Gosh, I could go through a whole week and not have 16 people give any. It's very, very hard. People don't like Jews. They think that the faith is not Jewish. They don't think there's ever going to be a temple. They don't know who the glory of God of Israel is. They don't, what do they think the 2 witnesses are going to come from, Oklahoma and Texas? What are they, they just don't do it. Most of Norway, for instance, has a lot of believers that like Israel, and they come to Israel frequently. I don't know about COVID and the war, but before that they did. Well, they got some character living in Israel from Norway who's not a Jew, yet got some kind of permanent residency here, which could happen. And they come and give to that person. And then they got a guest house in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem run by Norway. They serve Norway food and speak Norwegian, and they go stay there and they give money to that. And then you got the same thing with Finland, and you got it with Denmark, and you got it with probably Sweden and Germany. Pretty sure you have it from Germany. And that's it. So they come here and they give money, and you got them from the UK. They come here and they give money to some non-Jew from a foreign country living here on a tourist visa or maybe a resident, and they give money to that person. They don't believe their faith is Jewish. They're that confused. They don't understand. It says in the Romans 11, all Israel shall be saved. Where does that leave them? They don't understand that New Jerusalem has 12 gates. Each gate is named after one of the tribes of Israel. What gate do they think they're going to go through? The Foursquare gate, the Baptist gate? There is no such gate. How are they going to get into New Jerusalem if they're going to stand with the church and not be in Israel? See, they're so confused. So they don't want to support a Jew. You can't trust Jews. Why do you think they don't want to support a Jew? They're in a faith that's not correct. They have an anti-Semitic orientation due to replacement theology. Oh, we're going to go up in the rapture. We're going to go up to heaven and come down as spiritual gods and reign with a rod of iron over the Jews. Well, it says Yeshua is going to reign with a rod of iron over the Goyim, over the nations. Well, they apply it to them, reigning with Yeshua over the Jews. There's no scripture to support what they say. So they don't, they're backwards. They don't see it. They think the word of the Lord is not going to go forth out of Jerusalem or Israel. It's going to go forth out of the nations. They don't understand Jeremiah 30:11, associated with the birth of a nation in a day. All the nations he scattered the Israelis into over the many centuries, he's going to destroy. It's right there in Jeremiah 30:11. It's also in Jeremiah 48:28. And they don't buy. I'll go through that with you in a minute. Let me take a quick break. They don't understand it. And the teachers don't teach it right because the teachers are after the money. I've never heard a single church teach that America is the daughter of Babylon. Yet, with most students of prophecy, it's a given. But I've never seen one church teach it. I've never seen one denomination ever come forth and say, we stand next to Israel or we stand with Israel in these wars. Individual churches come out and say stuff, but I've never seen a denomination say it. And some of these denominations boycott Israel because they say that the West Bank is in Israel. So how could you be a church where Yeshua is the king of Israel, is the head of the church, you would say, along with Jehovah, and Yeshua is a Jew and they're anti-Israel? Isn't something really very wrong there? All the apostles were Jews, the prophets. So, I mean, they read Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Zechariah, Hosea, whatever, and then they turn around and become anti-Israel. How do you get there like that? Well, they have another gospel, not the true one. Because if they were truly in Yeshua and Yeshua was in them, they wouldn't hate Israel, would they? Would they? They're enemies for your sake, but beloved by the Father. Well, the veil is about to come off their eyes, Zechariah 12:10. The churches are going to fall apart all around the world in the next few weeks or a month or two or something like that. They're going to fall apart because the people are going to realize what's really happening. And it's going to be the end of the church age, but they don't believe that. So I never was able to raise enough funds to go and spread the gospel around the world. Maybe the Lord didn't want me to. I don't know. I guess. This person I'm talking to may not do it. He may not have the time and doesn't want any money for it. But, I can't proceed unless this person, I teach this person a lot of the doctrines or all of them, so this person could portray it correctly in the translation. It's a complicated thing. Um, it's a complicated thing. So it's a shame to me, but I guess it's God's will that I never got a chance to do that. Hag Sameach, happy holiday. Well, it is the holiday, but it's on the wrong dates. The rabbis changed the dates, so it's not really the holiday. May Moses guide their way. Uh, Tell us your opinion on Ultima Ratio from JB. I don't know what that is. Oh, it's a nasty person. That's what that is. I have no idea who Julian Boss is. Okay, so anyway, I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. I hope you got something out of this. So, again, just, we probably have some days before Israel starts knocking out the military targets, mostly pertaining to missiles and drones, as America is getting ready. And I do believe America wants to get rid of Iran too, because BRICS is such a big threat. And they're probably looking to provoke Iran, and then they'll join the fight. But I don't think they're going to join the fight just because Iran's attacking Israel. I mean, you don't go to war as a heathen nation because Jews are getting killed. But when the other countries get attacked or the military bases get attacked, then they'll go to war. All right. So I hope you got something out of this. Oh, I went over 2 hours today, but not by that much. Okay. That's what I got for today. And if you're subscribed, you'll get noticed when I come, if you hit the notification bell, when I come on at unusual times with live streams reporting what's going on here. And I'm out. Thank you.